Okay, we will go ahead and get started. Hello, fans. Thank you for joining us for our Play Both Sides of the Field with Ransomware Protection today. I will be your referee for the day, Jesse Dominic. I am with the InterVision marketing team. Please bear with my football references to fit our theme today. Additionally, we have Adam Scamihorn from InterVision and Ben Bitterman from Arctic Wolf, who will also be joining us as our presenters, coaching you through today's session. I will let them formally introduce themselves here shortly, but just wanted to cover a couple of housekeeping items first. First and foremost, we want this to be an interactive session, so please utilize the Q&A feature down at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. We will be monitoring that throughout the session and answer any questions that come in at the end of our session. Additionally, at the end of the session, you may have seen in your invite, anyone who has attended is eligible to win our raffle, which we will go ahead and do at the end of this session for the NFL gift card. So please hang tight till the end to be entered in that. And then last but not least, we are recording this session and we will make sure you get a copy of that in your inbox. Please look for that by tomorrow. That's all I have. So with that, I will go ahead and pass the ball over to Ben.
Thanks, Jenny. Are you ready for some football and security with me? So nice to meet everyone. I'm Ben Bitterman, the Vice President of Commercial and SMB at Arctic Wolf, and I'm joined with the very talented Mr. Adam. If you would like to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Adam Scamihorn, the Product Director for Business Continuity at InterVision. Thanks, Ben.
Perfect. And we are excited to talk about the very relevant topic in today's marketplace, security today, and have some fun with it. So let's set the stage, or the field rather, and talk about some stats. So I thought I'd open with just a few eye openers to get everyone's attention. Close to 60% of organizations experience some sort of breach last year. And if you think about the average cost of breaches that experience any sort of downtime, it's close to $4 million. That is nothing to turn a blind eye to. And when we think about analogies and similarities between the awesome sport of football and security, it's a game of inches, it's a game of statistics, and it's really important that you understand the stats when it comes to security to really understand and reduce the impact and likelihood of an incident and profile your cyber risk. Couple interesting stats to note. Industry average on dwell time of a threat in an environment is well over 206 days. Arctic Wolf and the solution we're going to talk to you about today aims to really identify and detect things in under 30 minutes. And so when we talk about that dwell time or mean time to detect, it's a critical component and statistic that you should really keep an eye on, right? Account takeover is one of the major ways that people get into accounts or there is a loss of PII as a result of that. When we talk about how these things happen, most breaches happen as a result of unpatched vulnerabilities still, even with the hyper awareness around Patch Tuesday and keeping things up to date and vulnerability management. It's just hard to get around to doing everything you should be doing in between game time, if you will, or when there's downtime. Phishing still is a huge reason why people are getting compromised and breached. Regardless of how much training we push out there, it seems like attackers continue to get savvy and smart, and phishing leads to significant breaches, volume of breaches through business email compromise. And so, there's hundreds of more stats we can unpack today, but it is important to understand the numbers. To make matters even more challenging, if you want to put together an all-star roster, like when you think about NFL teams and the salary caps and the type of investment they make in all-star players, right? I put some leading roles up here just to show you what the NFL pays Deshaun Watson, Ezekiel Elliott, Cooper Kupp in the wide receiver role, going on the defensive side into tight end, George Kittle and Denzel Ward on the cornerback. These players are getting huge contracts, huge amounts of money to show up every week and have all-star performances. And it's no different when you think of building an all-star security team. The unfortunate thing for most, though, is we don't have the unlimited payrolls, the big budgets that like Fortune companies have to staff CISOs, security directors, security architects, and really build out teams to handle all of the blocking and tackling, if you will, of the day-to-day security landscape. It can be very expensive. And in fact, if you look at what Gartner, Forrester, or other industry analysts say, you need to have a 24/7 coverage model in a SOC and to actually do detection and have a true security operations center. They say you need to staff 6 to 8 people with layers of management and leadership in there. And so it is a true undertaking to build an all-star team, and one that most organizations can't afford. So what do we do? What do we do if we can't put together a fantasy football team, right, with the budgets that we have? We have to get by with what we do. And so the modern players in the market to solve really the continuum of security challenges that are out there have really been to invest in leading security tool providers, right? To outsource particular components of security to service providers, to invest in a backup recovery strategy by buying tools and making sure you can replicate those backups and have them in multiple areas. Or, if you don't have the time to take it on your own, invest in recovery service providers. And just about everyone Adam and I talk to go about solving the security problems of modern day, especially for a majority of the kind of mid-market, in investing in these types of partnerships. The challenge is each of them have their own kind of requirements, and there's benefits to all of them that you really want all of these components as part of your strategy. But it is not an easy thing to kind of assemble everything cohesively.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here, Ben. Thanks. When you're putting that team together too, the other thing to think about is you can't just pull members from different teams together and expect them to go win a game, right? If I'm going to have a quarterback from one team, a wide receiver from another team, and my tight end from a third team, and then go throw them out there with no practice, no training, and have them work together cohesively, they're not going to know each other's plays. The same thing's true when we're trying to build a security response strategy, right? There's not been one cohesive play to date where the security team knows how to interact with the recovery team and they're quarterbacked by some type of vCISO to help put all of that together. So there's no one size fits all playbook for security yet. And that's until now. So ransomware protection as a service is something we've partnered with Arctic Wolf to put together a way to build that fantasy football team into a group that has actually practiced together and actually gone and solved larger security events in a much more effective way than trying to put all of these players together from different teams. So the first component of that is what we call SOC as a service. This is a combination of endpoint protection and managed detection and response. This is the people, the process, and the technology stack that you need in place to make sure you're monitoring and warning of those threat activities, providing the proactive response up front, but also the ability to detect, respond, and work with the recovery things that need to happen when and if something does get through your front line. Then ransomware recovery as a service is the second component. We've taken the best things we've learned over a decade of being a disaster recovery as a service leader, combined them with emerging technologies and backup to build a solution that is immutable, it's offsite and air-gapped away from the threat of an attacker, and it provides the ability to recover rapidly in a secure location and bring businesses back up after a data breach occurs. And the third component I mentioned a little bit is the virtual CISO. This is the ongoing advisory and assistance that at the beginning of the NIST cybersecurity framework helps identify and protect everything in that environment and make sure that they are ready for anything that comes to them. But they're also going to quarterback anything after the event. So when something happens, they're working with the SOC, with the recovery team to make sure they can respond rapidly and provide outcomes that are much, much better than what they would be without all three of these components working together.
Awesome, Adam. I'm going to talk a little bit now about some of the main topic of this webinar, and the fact that you can't win football games, you can't win the journey of security without both a good offense and a good defense, right? You have to play both sides of the ball, and being offensive when it comes to security, we'll talk about these components more, but as Adam described, the playbook is challenging for players to come into and learn quickly unless you're set up with the right foundation. And when we talk about Arctic Wolf and the partnership with InterVision, RPaaS, and what we really offer from a flexibility standpoint is a malleable playbook where we can slot in core talent and our capabilities, our functionality with whatever investments our customers or the team has already made. So what you've chosen to use in endpoint and network and cloud and identity, your people, right? Those all play a role when it comes to security, and all of those sources create telemetry. They are your threat surface, right? That is what you have to be looking at when you're making play calls, when you're running plays. And we feed all that data in regardless of what investments you've made into the platform for RPaaS in an open XDR architecture. And then we layer capabilities and functionality, service deliverables on top of that. On the offensive side, we have vulnerability management, manage risk, where we're actually doing scanning, understanding gaps in the play calls, gaps in the week over week plays that are being run, what's working, what's not working, and we seek to improve it. We can look for misconfigurations in cloud through cloud posture management and be proactive about securing those environments. We can do training and educate the personnel, the people, so they're up to date with the latest types of threat attacks, vectors that criminals are using to get into environments. Some of the recent ones like Okta or Uber's breach, right, were pretty sophisticated attacks, but very simple playbooks that were run. It's important that people understand how those happen. And then we have certain compliances that we can educate customers on depending on how you're regulated. So that's the offense. And when we look at the defense, that's really about identifying bad things as they happen, doing active detection work, threat hunting, exploring and investigating things, running them to ground, and actually having a formal response plan for incident response. Which leads me back to Adam and talking about the whole pre-boom, post-boom offense, defense, and the requirements that they both entail.
Yeah, so when we envisioned this, we built it all around both the NIST cybersecurity framework and the cyber defense matrix, which is the idea around these 5 pillars at the top: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. And the first 2 pillars are really about all the proactive stuff that needs to happen with these technologies. And so if you think about that, we call that left of boom. Before an incident, all the things we're doing to make sure our devices are identified and we're protecting them, the applications, we know where everything's at, the networking is in place, both on the recovery side as well as the protected side, and that we know where all the data is, and we're protecting that both with the managed detection and response technologies, but also all of the other things that are going to be unique to every single environment, right? So this is where the quarterback is making sure that all of the things from Arctic Wolf and endpoint protection and even the recovery team are building strategies, being proactive, and making sure that those playbooks are built and run well. But when the ball's handed over, when there is an incident, we go right of boom. All 3 of those things also need to be able to work together. And you see at the bottom this degree of dependency. This is kind of the understanding that every place we need people, we need technology, and we need process to be able to fill out this framework, this matrix. But as you move further to the right, the reliance on people gets much, much higher. And that's true both on the security side of being able to detect, respond, and remediate those specific kinds of incidents, but also on the recovery side and being able to bring up servers, data in a disaster recovery landing zone, making sure it's secure, looking for indicators of compromise, and then reconnecting the users so they can get back to work and continue on with their business.
Love that. Adam, you don't win football games without a plan and without practice. Am I correct?
Don't.
No, you don't. Right? Teams practice week over week. They have a game plan. They run the tape. They know who they're up against. they know what to do and they know how to go back and iterate throughout the process. And so, I think one thing that's always hard in day-to-day life is the clock is always working against us, just like it is in a football game. And if you don't know where you're taking the game, what you're up against from a shot clock, and how you're iterating it, things get really hard really fast, right? And I think one of the most beneficial things to working with InterVision, the RPaaS solution, Arctic Wolf, is we have a tried, true, tested process, right? Arctic Wolf supports over 4,000 customers. InterVision has hundreds and hundreds of customers who have gone through this same process, where it starts with discovery. It starts with understanding where you are at in your security journey, in your current game plan, what the maturity is of your team, and where you need to make investments. It's really about identifying those gaps and building that roadmap together in a realistic capacity for understanding what plays we're going to run next, and what we're up against from a shot or from a clock standpoint, right? What quarter is coming to a close, and what can we finish now, and what can we finish by halftime, and what can we finish by the end of the game? That's really important. We have a very thorough onboarding process where we can get things set up. We make sure it's live in action. It's a joint effort. And we're working on your timeline to really make sure we're meeting your goals for getting things in place. And then once we go live, from the day-to-day operation standpoint, it becomes a true life cycle. We're doing updates regularly. We have normal touch points. There's activity and work going on in the back end. There's activity and work happening on the front end. We're actually bringing empirical evidence, data, systems, information, health, strategy, plans, iterations back to you, reassembling the playbook. And of course, there's always major events, major plays that happen on the field, things that happen where we jump right into that write-a-boom or that response category and start, thwarting attacks, stopping plays from happening, making big defensive plays, getting involved and really narrowing in on our recovery time, recovery point objectives, and making sure there isn't impact to your environment, and then learning from that, iterating it and feeding it back into the playbook and into the process. So this is a really important thing that gets overlooked so often when evaluating vendors and actually looking at the maturity of solutions. It's not a matter of just looking at similar people, same size and different color uniforms and saying they're going to do the same thing, right? Many of you might not know, but Adam is bigger than most linebackers on an NFL football team, but he can also stop a security incident faster than anyone else in the market, right? So not everyone is designed the same, and that goes for products and services, and it's even harder to evaluate services, so it's really important you understand these processes. Security is not it's a journey, not a destination. I was getting that mixed up as it was coming out of my mouth, but it is really a continuous cycle where with Arctic Wolf, with the vCISO quarterback at InterVision, we have a constant feedback loop of discovery, of prioritization on the front end from an offensive standpoint. We always want to be enhancing your posture. If you think about this, if InterVision Arctic Wolf is constantly helping every customer increase their security posture week over week, month over month, then over time, they all create less noise, less information for us to have to sift through, and it becomes a win-win for both parties, right? It's the perfect synergy, right, of working together to drive focus, take those detours in stride, and really benefit from the outcomes that lead to risk reduction. I know there's a big change in the insurance marketplace right now, but ensuring insurability, right? Fast time to security value in times of chaos, and really eliminating blind spots, making sure you are always aware of what you might not have known as the macro security environment changes, right? And all of these things lead to the importance of partnering with the right folks.
Yeah, so one of the real cool things about this is there's a lot of different ways everybody out there is architected. The big question we often get asked is, How does this fit if I've already got X or I've already got Z? And we've put together a best of breed foundation for this solution, but that process that Ben shared allows us to take all of these qualifications and experiences and tailor a solution that fits into these three components for an organization. We've got 700 plus technical certifications at InterVision, 4 NOCs and SOCs. We've worked with high compliance clients, and we've got the ability to offer these kind of things both in the cloud, to the cloud, and in private VMware-powered cloud data centers. One of the best things about this is not only are we able to offer these services, but we're also to back that by service level agreements that put our money where our mouth is. So on top of what you would expect from standard managed services where you're getting uptime guarantees, we're also providing incident response SLAs where our teams are going to be with your organizations as an extension of your team to make sure that you're back up and running quickly. And along with that, we're providing recovery time objectives that work with all of those plans that we've built to develop true recovery time numbers that say, hey, this is how fast we can respond to these types of incidents. We've got to play for this one. We've got to play for this one. We've got to play for that one. And what is typically around 21 days to recover for a full data breach, we're able to provide recovery into that secure data center in less than 4 hours for most of our clients, which is a huge difference when you talk about the cost of downtime.
Yeah, the SLAs are really the stars on the helmet, right? As far as what you can tell an accredited service provider is willing to do, right, for all their clients as they write their contract. As a sales leader, I very rarely say, start with the contract, look there first, look at the SLAs. That doesn't come out of the people on my team's mouth often, but it is a huge reason why everyone should be taking diligence and looking at solutions in the market. Testing SLAs, comparing them, and truly understanding what they mean. And I think you will find with RPaaS, it is a phenomenal solution. From Arctic Wolf standpoint, we are a leader in the MDR market. We are the fastest growing player in managed detection and response with the largest footprint solely in that security operations center as a service or delivering managed detection solutions. We were rooted in doing this. There's a lot of players out there who started with products and iterated to add services. There's a lot of services companies that are trying to move towards cloud-based platforms and product offerings. Arctic Wolf has been doing this for 10 years. We are highly accredited in the space. We're partnered with all the leading players and have invested significantly, as mentioned earlier in this presentation, in working with whatever tooling and security tooling our partners like InterVision and our customers leverage. I would love to transition now to talk a little bit about a real live game plan, or excuse me, playbook that happened with a successful RPaaS customer. And I'm going to have Adam kind of walk through that scenario.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben. So all the SLAs in the world, all the stories about football teams in the world don't matter if we don't have actual outcomes. So I want to share with you a story about actual outcomes utilizing all three components here and how that works in real time and how we're able to rapidly respond together. At 10 p.m. on a Friday night, an organization was breached. Essentially, anomalous login activities detected by the SOC within 5 minutes. That was raised and sent to the triage team. They're able to do their investigation. They're seeing PowerShell type activity that shouldn't exist on that server. So they're confirming that attack and they're quickly isolating that server and escalating that event. So they begin to work up an incident and understand exactly what's happened as they've isolated that server within less than half an hour, right? Moving on, the vCISO, the quarterback, is then brought in to coordinate client escalation points. They're talking to the legal teams. They're talking to all of the public relations people in that organization, and they're talking to the insurance company, as well as bringing in then the disaster recovery team as well. At 10:40 p.m., the vCISO's working with the client to discuss their response. They've taken care of the compromised account. Password's been changed. The resiliency team's fully brought in. They're brought up to speed. the recommendations basically made that they need to recover the server that all of this PowerShell activity happened on, right? They don't believe that it's secure. And so in just a little bit of time, the resiliency team's given a green light to restore that server from backups. And as soon as that green light's given, in less than 10 minutes, they recover a 40 terabyte file server restored in the cloud, connected remotely in a secure location where they're able to scan it, search for the indicators of compromise, and return to business fully. And then ongoing, that vCISO's doing a full write-up after that event, understanding what's happened, doing the post-mortem work, and continuing to improve the security posture of this organization.
I love this.
It's a real life outcome where when we talk about that 21-day average of a breach or that 200 plus days on a dwell time, where we're catching logins very, very quickly, we're responding, we're locking it down, we're recovering, and we're getting back to business without ever really impacting the business. This all happened after business hours. The eyes were on it, right? The people saw it, even though it was a Friday night, and made sure that we got it taken care of before everybody comes in Monday morning. They're running like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, it's just a phenomenal story here, Adam. I love the from the beginning, getting the full context in under 30 minutes of the who, what, where, when, how, what's going on. So the vCISO could step in, change the play call, get all the right people in the huddle, make sure that everyone is moving in the same direction, run a play, get the touchdown, right? Save the bacon, save the business, and keep the game going the way we want it to towards victory. So I appreciate you walking through that story. Thank you guys so much for hearing us out on what the RPaaS offering is all about and how it can help really play both sides of the field, both offense and defense when it comes to security. We'd love to talk to you again about running the best play there is for both sides of the field with RPaaS. So I'm going to open it up now to some question and answer, and make sure Adam and I are resources for you to answer any inquiries you might have before we have the fun post-game celebration and party with the little raffle here.
Yes, please feel free to utilize, again, the Q&A section. We did have one question. I believe it was back, I don't know, maybe slide 9 or 10, but it was asked if it was solution agent or pure agent lists, if that makes sense to you all.
Yeah, from a solution standpoint, it's actually a combination of multiple aspects. I can go back here, but if you think about how you collect telemetry into the RPaaS platform, into Arctic Wolf, we have the endpoint where we're actually taking data from your existing endpoint solutions or from the RPaaS managed solution, which is SentinelOne, correct, Adam, as far as what InterVision is managing as part of it. So we're going to pull in data from the endpoint, what you use, or if you've migrated to SentinelOne. We're also going to deploy the Arctic Wolf agent as a layer approach to security to do isolation and containment. One common play that attackers run is, heaven forbid they ever get onto an administrative machine, but if they do, the first thing they turn off is industry-leading antivirus endpoint or EDR tools. That's their playbook. So you have to be ready with an additional line of defense. So we do have an agent approach, but we also collect telemetry from the network using sensors, network sensing, which we can do physical sensors or virtual sensors. And we have API tie-ins to cloud infrastructure, as well as can pull in data feeds from leading identity players like Duo, Okta, Microsoft, and feed that in, as well as human intel from the data we collect from our education platform and other things like that. So it is really an end-to-end threat service coverage in which there's really 3 or 4 different ways that we're pulling in telemetry to give that full coverage.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you, Ben.
I would also add too, as we talk about the endpoint protection, we have lots of options there, and SentinelOne is absolutely one of them. But don't feel like you can't partake in this solution if you're not invested into SentinelOne already. So the best of breed foundation, we also have partners with Cisco and Trend Micro and others. So.
Great comment, Adam. And yes, I've
Yep.
seen InterVision step in and manage and help with any of those tools, and then move to only if needed and warranted some of their leading players.
Right.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Again, and one more question just came in. In the managed risk, are you able to scan work from home systems?
If the agent is deployed or that work from home system is connected via the network or a VPN back to your core corporate network, then yes, anything that is on the corporate network we can scan as long as it has connectivity to that network. If you're not, you can deploy the agent and we can run and collect host-based vulnerability data even off of the corporate network, so long as you have the agent deployed.
One other question too, do you provide RPaaS services for the IBM, aka AS400? If so, do you have any customers that have that in their business?
Yeah, go ahead, Adam.
From a recovery standpoint, we do have clients who are utilizing AS400 systems. Do you have a security side answer there too, Ben? You wanted to jump in on?
I was just going to say, from the security side system, any mainframe or IBM type system like that, we would be monitoring infrastructure and network traffic from how that is connected into your network. We absolutely would be getting telemetry from it. You don't put an agent on a mainframe though. That would be more network based, right? Identification and traffic coming to and from the systems based on our network sensing.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So far, that's all the questions that have come in. So we can give everyone another minute, but Ben, I did send you that list of, one more question. Network sensing work of span or mirror ports?
Yeah, good question. We have two different ways that network sensing can be deployed. We can actually be deployed inline, in which it's a direct path between the firewall and your switch. We can actually do network and IP blocking if deployed in that way. Highly recommend redundant paths there, but we do fail open on those sensors. Otherwise, span and mirror options are absolutely available, and we can deploy in that capacity as well. It's your choice. Cool.
One more. Actually, I think this is just a separate request. Never mind. I think last call for any questions. Otherwise, we can go ahead and get to our drawing.
Great. Let me boot that up. Give me 1 second.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. Again, any other questions, feel free to submit them in the Q&A. We can still tackle those as we wait for Ben to pull up our drawing. And thank you all again for joining us. We have a Cowboys fan on here. Oh Lord. And just again, a reminder, we will of course be doing this drawing right now momentarily. We are recording this session. We'll get that out to you. So, moment of truth. Go ahead, Ben.
All right, let's let it rip. And what are we winning here?
The NFL gift card.
How much?
To
Dan.
Dan. Woo, that was close. There we go. Wonderful. So we will be sure, Stan, to get you your $500 NFL gift card.
That's awesome. Congratulations, Stan, and thank you everyone for being a part of the webinar today.
Thanks for engaging with us. And again, we will get you this recording. Thank you, everyone.